A warm welcome to all our viewers to our series Natural Medicine. Today we go straight into the TCM. We'd like to talk about TCM this season, the traditional Chinese medicine a bit, and also about products, especially teas, and look at the recipes that have been used in a long tradition over and over again. And today I've invited a professor who is deeply involved in TCM and knows his way around incredibly well. He's a chemist, he's a biologist, he's in the field of herbal medicine and certified over 3,000 substances as gold standards, so that the pharmaceutical industry worldwide uses them according to his standards. He's also an expert in pharmaceutical law, and he is a deputy ombudsman at the DIN standard in Germany. So not just anyone, he's really a great man. And I'm very honoured that you are back today, dear Hans Rausch. A warm welcome to you. Hello, I'm pleased to be here, to be able to present a few new things to a wider public. With pleasure. So I'd like to start with you with the history of TCM, because for me, as a Swiss, TCM is incredibly important. It's mystical, it's a bit mysterious, and yet you know that it has an incredible effect. People are talking about acupuncture, and all possible forms of healing are already well established in Switzerland. I don't know how it is elsewhere, but there was a phase when suddenly the reputation was damaged. I noticed that a bit, and lately it's been increasing steadily again, and I'd like to hear the story a little bit from you. What happened that it went down and now why it goes up again? Good. Of course, we have to lay the foundations. We just heard that Switzerland's affinity for TSM is not on a very low level, to make an understatement. But this is also due to the fact, let's say, the countries Germany, Austria, Switzerland have a long tradition with phytomedicine, so plant-based therapy, and dealt with this intensively for a long time. So the trust in an effective herbal therapy has also grown through their own phytotherapy. And by implementing the Southeast Asian phytotherapy in Western medicine, we got additional mechanisms of action, additional components, which simply did not exist in Europe at this stage, due to the limited availability of medicinal plants. So, of course, we have to look at one thing. We may have, from my wealth of experience, with which we also work constantly, about 500 plants which are used as medicinal plants in Western medicine, in one way or another. 500 approximately implemented in Western medicine, but also in American medicine, a little, where then plants from the Native American medicine have also ended up with us. We can later discuss such examples in detail. And according to official assessments by Chinese experts, there are around 10,000 medicinal plants with therapeutic effects in Southeast Asia. And that means that we have a gigantic potential there in terms of ingredients, of which the chemical composition is only partially known to date in the West. I've been dealing with these ingredients for almost 30 years now. And still, I say, I actually understand very little. And I'm surprised anew every single day about things that we suddenly see again in the laboratory, where I say, I've never seen such a structure in Western plants. And that means, in return, through access to a gigantic potential of new, basic chemical structures, we also have completely different options in therapy, which are used as a basis. I'm only addressing one key word now. Most of all, currently used therapeutics in cancer therapy are based in their chemical structure on components from traditional Chinese medicine. So what the chemical industry sells us as their knowledge is actually nothing more than a cheap copy and chemical modification of something already known. Isn't that also the case with HIV? There too, plant-based components are sometimes used. We have, let me put it this way, with the HIV story, modern Western medicine has been able to learn for the first time that the pragmatic approach, we heal the body with a monoactive ingredient, so a chemically precisely defined component, has not worked back and forth for years. And then suddenly, because it mutates, right? Because it mutates, because it constantly reacts to it. And now they go back again to this so-called synergism effect, so the co-effect of a complex mixture of different ingredients, which massively interferes in its reactivity. Because the disease reacts to the active ingredient, but is immediately surrounded by another active ingredient and by another and yet another. Yes, of course, we have to add one thing, a typical medicinal plant, or we can go even further. A typical plant contains between 1 and 2 million compounds. Imagine that. So is that in spectral analysis? We only have a rudimentary knowledge of what is in our plants, let alone what's in Asian plants. Is that in the spectral analysis where we see those peaks? We see signals, if you can see them. Of course, that depends on if I make a tea extract from a plant. It may be that I already have 100,000 different components in the tea. You have to imagine that. And that's a dimension, but when you understand again that nature can't be influenced efficiently through a single substance, of course you have the other side, that a much higher reactivity is achieved in a complex mixture with much smaller amounts of substance. I always tell my students a very simple attempt to explain. It's just an attempt to explain. You always have to imagine one thing. Our body is a microcosm that functions just like modern humans. The liver is the bouncer in the club. That is, if we take something orally, so by mouth, it's broken down in the stomach via the esophagus and absorbed in the intestine, and everything that is absorbed in the intestine, so what comes into the body, the intestine is actually outside the body. It's outside, sure. So what's coming into the body goes into the bloodstream first, and these blood vessels go into the liver first. And the liver basically does face control. I know this, I don't know that. I know this, it's not critical, I'll let it through. I don't know that, so I'll take a look. Is it water-soluble? Push it into the kidney. Discharge it, then it's gone again. I don't know that, but it can't be dissolved in water. I have to work. The liver tries first through chemical processes to make the substance more soluble in water through chemical modification. And then afterwards, to push it into the kidney, to say, and now you can see that you can get rid of it. If it doesn't work, then we do what we do with other problems, with garbage problems, because then we have something that the body sees as garbage. It doesn't know that it should work for it. It says, we don't know it, we can't get rid of it, so let's store it. First in the liver. When the liver is full, we push it into storage adipose tissue. That's where we store all of this garbage, in quotes. When we understand this, then we'll know what's going on in general. So, if we then take a close look at Western medicine intervention, then medicine or pharmacy describes a wonderful effect that's called the so-called first pass effect. So the effect that happens the first time it passes through the liver. So the liver's trying to eliminate a chemical agent that's been recognized as alien. But we want it in the body so that it can have its pharmacological effect. That means I basically have to do what I do when 200 hooligans with baseball bats come to the bouncer at the club. At some point he'll say, I give up, and just let them pass. And that's exactly what we do in Western medicine. That means we actually overstrain the liver so that we can even get the active ingredient that we want in the body past the liver. Now, this TCM, teas for example, they're all natural gifts. Is all this actually something where our liver says, I know you are natural too? In the vast majority of cases, the liver says, I know this. And secondly, there's so little of the individual components that I don't see as critical. So the least of what we add to the body on this level is identified as garbage and is tried to be eliminated. That means the body, that is the bouncer, that is the liver, lets it through. So we have complex mixtures, but they don't usually have an additive effect, but a multiplicative effect. So due to the different attack options in one and the same place, we only need small amounts from the single active ingredient, but achieve a gigantic overall effect through the complexity in the mix. Great example, but one more thing. I mean, it's perfectly clear to me that nature's perfect, otherwise it would not have created itself as it is over millions of years. But now it's also the case that this naturopathy, which came from China, has an incredibly long history of effects. And then industrialization came somehow. Money was in the foreground. To what extent was that responsible for the fact that the reputation of these teas collapsed? Yeah, of course. Yeah. You have to consider two factors in this direction. In the West, of course, due to the, let's say, population structure, everyone tries today, or in a family network, mothers and fathers work, so you hardly have time to brew your own teas for your own therapy, which basically means an hour of effort. But then also produce smells that take some getting used to, maybe even more exotic tastes. So they couldn't be established with us. So with the basic Japanese concept, after the Second World War, of a fast and comprehensive supply of the own population, with instant teas, but which are made according to traditional mixes, it was recognized in China, but especially in Taiwan, the West swallows this stuff much better if it's instant, convenient, and not that you have to brew it for hours, and also need expertise. So I now have to cook a root longer, for example, than the flower parts and so on. So that means, of course, I have a lot, let's say, of old knowledge missing in Europe. How do I deal with the material, which a Chinese naturally developed over the centuries, which was always passed on from his parents' house? And these instant teas actually still have these active ingredients in it, or just a fraction of it. Well, I once did an examination in the laboratory of I would say 50 different ones, also from different manufacturers. And in none of the products, I found what should have been in it, according to the declaration. Okay, the whole thing is called granules, so dried extracts. The granules have, meanwhile, now I can only speak from Germany because the restrictions were drawn the strictest there back in 2011. from the highest judiciary, the status of an unsuitable form of therapy. So these products have disappeared from the market since 2011. They are there to this day, fueled, of course, by e-commerce and so on. And that means the market is full with unsuitable therapeutics, which was also the case in China. Also in other Asian countries, which in 2009 led to that the governments of China, Japan and Korea sat down at a table and said that the good of Asian medicine in its traditional application goes to the dogs. Because from a commercial point of view, we spread a lot of rubbish in the market, not in general, but a lot of rubbish. And that, of course, has meanwhile led to that our, well, let's say, aspiring middle class completely averted away from TCM because of the knowledge in the West. So the trust in their own country went down massively, so that the government said, we have something that works well, but only because people mess it up as business. It's destroying the medicine, and they reacted. And the backlash basically had a global impact by proclaiming an ISO standardization and quality offensive. So there is a technical committee of the ISO, so, you know, ISO 9001 and that sort of stuff. And precisely in Geneva, a technical committee has been set up, centrally controlled, and it's supposed to standardize the TCM and the medical directions derived from it. So Campo medicine in Japan, Korean medicine in Korea and Vietnam, Thailand and so on, and other countries. In this, let's say, circle of dependency on knowledge based on traditional Chinese medicine, and thus ensure new quality levels for safety and quality for the next generations as well. I think you have a position there too, to ensure that things are going well. I was commissioned in 2010 to develop a basic concept for the structure of this technical committee, which has been implemented to this day in this way. So my proposal is still valid today in terms of structuring. I then have, if you look at it closely, it may be hardly understandable at first glance, and it's established the main Quality Assurance Secretariat in Germany. So that means Japan, China and Korea and the other countries rely on the expertise that we have here in Germany, which isn't insignificant. I don't want to praise myself, but it depends on my person. To be able to ensure the future viability of this medicine in the long run, by being able to eliminate the malformation. So that means that in the future the consumer will also be able to decide whether to buy something that's of high quality and works, or something that might be cheaper, but throws his money out of the window. I understood that wonderfully. So at some point the tea packing should say this is ISO standardized. Exactly. This tea then, I know I have it, there are already some standards that currently apply primarily to raw materials. So that means the Asian states have also agreed to standardization of a certain quality of their raw materials. I work on this every day, because this is where you get this image. People keep saying, in China, God knows what's sprayed there, but if this ISO standard is behind it, then there's no spraying, there are no pesticides and no more heavy metals in it. Because we ensure that we can keep the Western standards one-to-one for these products too. And really ensure this Because these products, before they legally arrive from China, for example, in Germany, I'm just saying it now as an example, are tested by an appropriate laboratory in Europe, according to European criteria, and not whitewashed by looking away. We also talked in other episodes about the effectiveness of such certified teas. Now, the real question is, where, if the topic interests me, can I find a platform where I can get a selection of certified teas, and I can read about the effects that are described in them? At the moment, because there are many books on TCM for its application, hardly anyone has dealt with real quality assurance. One set of instruments will be the ISO standards. If the product has this standard, does it meet this standard or does it not? That's one of the criteria that does not yet apply. So we're still in the final phase of implementation at the moment. But on the other hand, there are now specialised documentations in progress that then also do include such things or such questions and present them accordingly. But I know that there is a pharmacy in Germany that already sells and distributes a whole range of such TCM teas. The question is, are the qualities in there actually on the standard of this future DIN certification? Yeah. So again, we have to take a short step back. We talked about the dosage form of granules, which actually can't be legally on the market at all, which are also outlawed by the authorities. Some of them are sold under the counter, simply due to reasons of practicality. In order to be able to meet the new standards with the high quality requirements, a new dosage form was designed. So a granulate is often a lot of excipient and little effect. The compactate, this new form, is nothing else but strongly compressed, pure extracts with less excipient. The little excipient is necessary so that the crumbs, that is the instant tea, can be stable at all and doesn't stick together, because otherwise it can no longer be dosed. And these compactates are now in several pharmacies available in Germany with doctors' prescriptions. But for special standardized recipes that are already known and experienced, as we've just heard, the main distributor is the Station Pharmacy in Kempten for all of Europe. And in the future, also the Lions Pharmacy in Zurich for the Swiss market. Well, if I want a tea that really has that traditional Chinese effect, as it used to be, then I'd be in good hands with these two addresses to get advice there. To buy a tea where the raw material conforms to the norm, but I also have the effect that has actually been documented over hundreds of years. In today's quality standards, we have the so-called traceability, so tracing the product from the seed to the end product. And this is the only way to ensure that we won't have, for commercial reasons, inferior goods, sometimes even wrong goods, so dangerous products, appearing in the market. And now, one more thing I'll say, that the new dosage form is what currently can meet all levels, all standards. Dear Hans, my heart pounds. I think it's just cool, so casual to be able to talk about such topics with you. I've already tried the teas, one or the other. It's a whole other league. I never was a tea drinker, but today I love it. It's also a different price range. But you also have other mechanisms of action in it, and I just think it's great. that you can really use such teas and know what you have. It was really crucial for me to hear that not all teas are the same. I wasn't really aware of that. I thought, pour in a few flakes, add some water, it'll make a great tea. To ensure the effectiveness and quality, you won't be able to work with the cheapest material. And that will also be reflected in the final price. But when you see the success with it, we see it every day, that people get better and healthier accordingly. Sure, of course. Then you have to rethink the relation to the price again. And the nice thing is that there's a lot of science behind it, because many of these tea blends are based on an incredible wealth of studies, be it on infections, be it about seizures, be it about influenza virus, be it about swine flu, God knows what. There are descriptions of these traditional mixtures everywhere. And I think we all do good for ourselves if we deal with it more. And in the meantime, a lot of publications that can also adequately describe the mechanisms of action. Thank you, dear Hans. We will definitely continue on this point. Dear viewers, that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time.